We really appreciate you coming here. Obviously, with the Global Entrepreneurship Congress, there are always a large number of sessions to get to, tons of content for you all to soak in and bring back to your countries and your communities. This one's a little more nuts and bolts, right? It's the whole point of this is to kind of do a little bit of a quick review of the Global Entrepreneurship Network platform and to kind of learn a little bit more about how you all interface with it, how you use it, what you can get out of it, and what we can learn from you in terms of improving that system. And so I'm not going to speak from the front of the room too much. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Ashley here in a second. But just a quick minute here in terms of why we place a little bit of importance on the platform, right? It's something that if we talk about Gen's mission, it's building one global ecosystem, right? And we want that platform to kind of power that. And so for us, it helps map ecosystems, who's involved in Gen programming around the world. What are they doing? How are they supporting entrepreneurs? What can we learn from what you all are doing on the ground? And so right now, the website is in kind of, I would say, a constant state of evolution, right? And so what it is currently isn't what it's going to be a month from now or 6 months from now or a year from now. And so we're constantly striving to improve the platform, to make it more user-friendly, but also to better measure impact and collect data from ecosystem champions around the world. And so, learning from you in terms of what your pain points are with the platform, but also how you're measuring impact on the ground will help us make improvements. And so really quickly, since we have kind of a light crowd, I would love to go through one by one quickly and just get like a 3-second to 5-second, find out who we have in the room and how you interact with the website, or if you haven't interacted with the website yet. So I guess we'll go left to right. And so we'll start actually right over here. So I guess let me ask this question first before I go and drill down person by person. Gen country affiliates or Global Entrepreneurship Week host organizations. Do we have anybody? I know we have a few here. Okay. So we've got, okay, that's great. And then I would say, or ask a question. So some of the rest of you, are you familiar with the site? Are you using the site, or are you just trying to learn from this session? Trying to learn, great. Trying to learn, okay. And then are you active in GEM programming currently, or are you just kind of, I'm sorry? Perfect, okay. Same? Okay, great. So this is a good mix of kind of grizzled veterans here that have dealt with our site for a while, and then kind of and newer folks as well. So that's super helpful. Ashley is going to walk you through. So this is Ashley Massengill. She's new to our team. Nobody is more excited about her joining our global team than I am. You can kind of talk about your background, but she's got a career in UX, UI design, and web development. And so she's the perfect blend of skills for our organization, and is going to be kind of ushering the GEM platform into kind of the next phase. And so without further ado, I'll turn it over to Ashley.
Thanks. So I am Ashley Massengill. I am the GEN Global's Director of Web Development. And as Mark said, I do have a background I started out as a front-end developer, so I've lived in that design world, development world, and moved into product ownership, and now I'm with Gen. And so, we have a lot of plans for the website. This is where we're at right now, and I'm going to walk you guys through what it is right now, how you can utilize it, how you can get benefits out of it for your country, for your network, as country leaders. And then also right at the end, Mark and I want to get your feedback. What are your pain points? What would you like to see? What would you like to improve? Because as we have this roadmap that we're developing to really build out the site and improve it and get to the next iteration, your feedback is going to help drive that. So to get started, this is the Gen homepage, and the key points that we want to hit are the Atlas network, how you can search the Atlas library, the community directory, our speakers bureau, and the activities calendar. Those are the key public-facing, resource libraries that we have on the site. And all of those are actually available right here under resources in the navigation. Very, very simple. They're high level for us, and you can see down here we do have those speakers, some of our key featured speakers rotating. Jeff Hoffman is one that you'll see frequently rotate through, and he is, one of our key speakers. So on the site, our things that we're doing right now, our impact report we just launched. If you have a small restaurant that's, got the means to apply for disaster relief. So these are at the top here. We're always going to have our key things that are happening. But digging into those resources that we focus for everyone, our Atlas page, it has a search functionality, which is where you're going to want to go first. What country are you looking for those resources in? Are they, Australia is my guinea pig for everything because host country, and I know they have a lot of great content. So in this search, I'm going to come up with, Australia's Atlas posts, tax incentives, policies, and resources. You have additional search. So what continent is it on? What type of support, level of intervention. So you can really drill down and get a lot of details here. And these are heavily curated. Not anybody can just put these out there. They are thoroughly vetted. So if you see something up here, Matt and Tom, our research team, have looked through this. They have, gone in and done their due diligence on this before it gets to the site. So, that's the Atlas library. It's, especially if you're a country leader, work with them and get the Atlas library for your country updated and make sure that is good, because this is the content, this is the information that your entrepreneurs need as they're starting out. They want to know what tax incentives they've got, available to them. Matt and Tom are gonna be your resource to help you get that there. And as things change, you can update them. We can help you update them. We can help you take them down if they need to come down because suddenly that's no longer applicable. But I highly recommend you guys dig through this and explore. Community directory. Our community directory is exactly what it sounds like. It is the directory of all Gen Global members. I use this on a daily basis, especially as we were coming into the GEC with speakers and delegates and all of that. If you're looking for somebody, you can filter it by country. So I can come down here to Argentina and filter it and just see everybody in Argentina. Who is everybody in that country that I'm in? Who are they? What are they doing? If I'm looking for somebody very specific, and I know their last name, they've got a really common last name, John Smith, but I know where he lives. I know he's in the United States. I can filter and I can find my exact person. And that, that lets you go into somebody and learn about them, connect with them. Who are they? What company are they with? Hey, look, there's their LinkedIn. I can send that connection and make that network connection with them. So our community directory, hugely important. And you want all your members to create their accounts so they're in your community directory. So as you start having people come talk to you, encourage them, create your account on Gen Global and get in that community directory, because people are going to start reaching out to you and networking with you and talking to you. You're going to be able to sign up and get those resources available to you, register for events easier, participate in the EWC or Startup Huddle easier. So do that. Same thing with the Speakers Bureau. If you're hosting an event and you're looking for somebody to speak, our Speakers Bureau are those members that have created a profile and they have indicated in the process of setting up their profile they're interested in speaking and participating in your events, and they've got XYZ topics that they focus on. And then you can sort, filter by country. Are they in my country, or am I looking for somebody external to my country to come in and give a collaborative experience and a collaborative talk? So if you've got members that they're really good at that and they're not in our speakers bureau, encourage them to edit their profile and say, hey, I'm available to speak, because, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you want them to do that for themselves, and to promote themselves like that? And then our activities, and this is the other one. It is a global map of all events that all Gen communities are hosting. And so it's sorted by date. You can click into it and get details on this event. You can also access this map from from a country dashboard, and it pre-filters it by country. And we'll get to that in a minute. But you've got your Melbourne Startup and Innovation Walking Tour, and so details about it, how to register. Each country is responsible for building these events and getting it out there, but there is that global list of all events going on. So if your country is hosting events and they're not putting it here, you're doing yourself a disservice. So please, utilize the site. You guys have all of this information, not just to use for yourself for information, but also to promote your community, to promote your country, which is what we want you to do. Now, getting into the back end of it a little bit, as a country leader, you guys have access to your dashboard, and I'm using Australia as my guinea pig. Like I said, they have a really good site, and so our leaders have access to this dashboard to manage your content. And right away, you're going to see who your leaders are on your dashboard. You're going to see some quick, the Gen Country Slack channel link, and like troubleshooting, if you're having issues, that support form that sends directly to me and Mark and our development counterpart to help troubleshoot any bugs that you're having. And so you've got this page. And so this is where you edit your country dashboard content. So Australia's page looks like this. So you see they've got their slideshow of slides that are publishing and quick information, Australian specific news articles that they've posted, and then their atlas. Right here is a pre-filtered list of their atlas articles. Any supporters that your country has right here on your country page. And then you've got other pages that you can send people to. So, what does the Australian leadership look like? Or if I'm in Bangladesh, what does my leadership team look like? And it tells your members. So this is something that you want to keep up to date. Who am I putting out there as available for my members to contact? Who, if they have questions, who do they reach out to? Contact information, your standard things, your GEW page, so your Global Entrepreneurship Week page specific to your country. And Australia's, looks pretty good. They got, a lot of content on it. So, that's something that's really important to keep up to date. And then your community. So like I was saying in that activities page, when on your country page, sorry, the bandwidth here is doing some strange things loading this map. That's why I had the other one preloaded. It filters down specifically to Australia. So you can see where those events are in your country in a zoomed in view. And this list that pre-filters to only events in your country, which is, another reason to keep this page up to date, because if you're sending people to your country page for information, make sure that the information is there. Speakers Bureau, Community Directory, those are just reiterations of the global pages. Australian news, then you would also see the global news. So, and if they want to subscribe to your content, by all means, please sign, send them there so they can get it. But back on that dashboard, so how do I manage all of that content that's there? On our homepage, on our site homepage, we have what pages are available to us. But the ones that you really want to look at, Snapshot is that Gen Atlas. This is where you would manage all of your Atlas articles and have them. The name used to be Snapshot, and we changed it to Gen Atlas. Am I correct about that? So some of the language is a holdover. Eventually, we will get that fixed and updated so that there's less confusion. But if you see Snapshot, that's Gen Atlas. And managing your ecosystem news, if you have specific news articles, your site content, news and updates, that's where you build all of those news articles specific to your country and post them. The slideshows, same thing. Specific to me, what is rolling through on my country, on my GW page, on our country homepage. Leadership, I cannot stress enough to make sure that you have leadership updated on your country page. That is so, so important. How are people going to know who to talk to when they have questions or they want to, participate in your startup huddle or something like that if your leadership is not updated? Australia's done a great job of getting their content updated and keeping it there. Chad, their leader is, he's got it down. And then your supporters. Who's sponsoring your country? What companies are you partnering with your events and different things? Having their logo up there is a good marketing opportunity for them, but it's also a good marketing opportunity for you to show that we're serious. These are the people we're partnering with, and so we're not a joke. We're really putting in the effort. So if you have those partners, absolutely. And then obviously, managing your GEW page is important because GEW is such a huge deal. It's such a huge event. So managing those slides for your GEW page, managing that news related specific to GEW is right here. So the dashboard, it has these sidebar items. Helpful resources is another one that we're really working on fleshing out even more. But there's videos and how-to, questionnaires. So if you do get into a little bit of a bind and you forget how to do something, that helpful resources is right there for you guys to do that. And then, as always in Slack, you can send me a message, you can send me an email, and I can help you troubleshoot something. If you've made an update and you made it correctly and for whatever reason it is just not working, please contact me. That's what I'm here for. If you can't remember how to do something, we have that troubleshooting and support form, that sends directly to me and Mark in our system, and somebody will get it. Somebody will respond. Usually, we try to do it pretty quickly. We're not this week, but it's a simple form. Just fill it out. Tell us what you're experiencing, and I promise we'll get you a solution. But that's accessible from your dashboard as well. So fairly simplistic. It looks more complicated than it is, I promise. Once you start working with it, it starts to make a lot of sense. But now, as I've walked you through all the things, now what are your questions? What do you want more in-depth information on, or how do I do this? Remind me where that is. Yes.
I have one particular question because it happened to me in the last GEW.
Uh-huh.
The bulk content upload.
Mm-hmm.
What's the best way to do it? Because I set it in one way and then it didn't work.
I'm gonna let Mark answer that one.
I'll start and provide the context for everybody. So, great question. So, one of the resources that Ashley kind of previewed here was the activity list, right? And so for those of you who are uninitiated, the origin of that was Global Entrepreneurship Week. So Global Entrepreneurship Week is a program that Jen runs. It's every November. It's about 40,000 different events, activities, and competitions that happen around the world simultaneously during 1 week. It's a little bit more than a week, but it's in the month of November.
We're flexible.
but it happens all around the world. And so really the kind of the event upload, that was the genesis or the origin behind that. And so we wanted to figure out, well, if we have this massive global campaign going on, what are the events and activities that are happening around the world? And then so that way people can actually see what's happening in their community, and they can go and they can participate and they can meet all these amazing people that are part of the network. So that's the logic that's driving it, right? So, but then with that functionality, we have the ability for organizations to go on the site, learn a little bit more, and say, hey, we're planning an event for our community, for our country. This is what it's all about. And so we want to help promote those events. And so the system works best and easiest if the organizations that are conducting those events upload them directly. But as Violetta has mentioned, we have a tool for our community, for our GEM managing directors and GW host organizations to do a bulk upload of the events, so that way people can kind of find out what's happening in their community. And that system doesn't work as well as the direct thing. And so, but we're constantly, we're making fixes to it. And I know that you worked closely with Gary on that last year, and I appreciate that. And we'll continue to do that. But again, you've probably heard us sound like a broken record and say, this system works best if if all individual event organizers are adding it to the site themselves. And so we can help. And I know. And you know what? And I understand that language and localization is a big barrier to that. And that's something that we're working on as well. And so I see a hand back there, but I think I saw a hand, Renee, over here first.
Well, one thing really small. When you're putting inside all the information for an event,
Yep.
and you want to put a picture or maybe the
Yeah, logo.
there is a way that we can use a minimum size
Mm-hmm.
and maybe not a maximum.
Yeah.
Because what's happening is that the logo will go stretch, maybe
Yep.
doesn't show or something. And I've been using other pages, and when you have a minimum size, the structure of the web will adjust it.
Yes.
Will look good.
Yeah.
We'll keep it the way it is original.
Yes, it crops it or stretches it or does something bizarre. At least send me an email reminding me after this. I've made myself a note. But what I can do is I can figure out the optimal specs, the optimal shape ratio for those images, so that, if you've just got a logo and you put it on a white background that's the proper shape, then it won't distort it, because image distortion is, yes, obviously a problem. So I have a running list of things that people have asked. So I've made myself a note, but I can get you the answer to that question, so that when you guys are creating your graphics, that's one less headache. You know exactly how it should be shaped. What just happened?
Oh, I think we just lost a little bit of
There it goes.
There we go.
It's like it went to sleep. Maybe not. Maybe it's just. It's tight connection. It's
Yeah,
fine.
So, but we can continue on with the questions here. But I think we should probably focus group this too.
Yeah,
Create like a little
absolutely.
working group of people. But we recently upgraded the code base. The site has always been built on Drupal. It was kind of an open source. The logic behind it was that if we had a global community, that if we had something like that, we had a global community who was kind of feeding into the site. So we've recently upgraded from Drupal 8 to Drupal 9.
That's tight.
So I think
That's tight.
a lot of those little things, you'll start to see some fixes pretty soon on that with Ashley.
Yeah, we have
We had
a whole
question.
roadmap of fixes planned.
I have two questions. Excuse the voice, I'm not based from today. So the first concern is I have 3 profiles,
Uh-huh.
and they may say congratulations. But there's no delete button.
Yes, there is a, when you go in to edit those profiles, there's an option to send us, and it's like a cancel profile. It sends us a notification to cancel it. We are actually on the back side of things for ourselves, working on the ability to merge those. So if you have a variety of data, like you registered for an event and it's attached to this profile instead of your primary one, We're working on the ability to merge those and delete the extraneous ones ourselves as an admin audit process. If I come across them, I am manually doing it. But yeah, there should be, when you edit your profile, somewhere.
It says cancel.
It-
Make
I
a
think it-
cancel account.
I think it says cancel account, and then it sends us a notification to review it and process it.
Apparent, so if you're looking for user
Yes.
I've been looking for it for some time.
Okay.
We are also actually currently, like, actively in the middle of updating the experience for creating new profiles and editing profiles.
So my second comment really, so I'm based in London.
Uh-huh.
And I'm in the university sector, and I'm actively encouraging my colleagues across the university sector to register their events for Global Entrepreneurship Week.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say, it's an onerous exercise, and I think if you're going to try and capture the richness of what's happening in the UK, you need to find a simple way,
Yes.
a light touch way of, this is the event, so people can do it. Because my response is, I can't but be bothered. And I know my colleagues
Yeah.
across the missing across 135 universities a richness of activities. You aren't seeing it.
Yeah, that's a very valid criticism, and not that it's an excuse, but our logic. A lot of times we've kind of the pendulum has swung back and forth with our logic behind the site. And so one of the things that we've been thinking about is, as I mentioned earlier, the data that we're collecting and trying to better understand what the impact is of interventions in communities. And so we have some gen research programs that are really interested in that. And so then we start making things more difficult. We start making it harder for people to add information to the site because this is a mandatory field and that's a mandatory field. So then you have to create an organization profile, right? I'm sure you've encountered this and your people have encountered this. And so first of all, I want to say, we're sorry. Second of all, but message loud and clear, we need to make that bar easier for people to add that information about their events, and then make the data-driven part of it a little bit of a separate flow. So that way we're capturing both the scale of Global Entrepreneurship Week and the events that are happening in communities, but then also, the data-driven aspects of it. And so, totally valid, and I'm excited about what will be rolling out soon, and just kind of, we appreciate your patience and we hear you loud and clear, but we're working on it.
Hi, I'm Jane from New Zealand. I was just wondering if you could give us an idea about
It's almost like it went to sleep.
I'm sorry? Usage?
how many users do you have globally?
Sure.
What, I can't.
I used to recognize
How many in New Zealand, how many in Australia?
It's
Yeah,
fine.
I don't have numbers, like the local numbers yet, but we can certainly follow up afterwards. I know in terms of our kind of user database, there's approximately 70,000 user profiles that are on the platform. Now, as was mentioned by our friend in the back, some of those profiles are a little bit duplicative of others. And so that 70,000 number is a total. And so, but I would estimate if you kind of take out those duplicates, you take out some things that we're constantly battling, spam issues. And so we've got firewall solutions and manual solutions and spam blocking solutions. But if you've got somebody who's in kind of like a spam farm somewhere and they're kind of manually creating profiles, that's hard to combat unless you're actually doing that real time,
He's the manual solution.
which we do. Sometimes it's a Zen exercise for me to
It
sit
is.
around with a beer on a Friday night and just kind of delete dozens of spam profiles. But I would estimate that we're probably somewhere around half of that in terms of legitimate user profiles. But then as you can imagine, the vision for this is that it's a global platform for everybody. And so if we've got organizations if we make it easier for the organizations to add their events to the site, they add it there. Then if we have the Eventbrite functionality to it where we're encouraging people to use this tool to process RSVPs for your events, and then you've got users who are jumping in there, and then you really have a much better picture then of who's actively involved in the ecosystem just by kind of looking through that community directory.
And if you're using Eventbrite, that is fantastic because that is an easy entry point, especially for the startup community. You saw on that Australia event page where it had register now, and that's just where you link your Eventbrite, and then people can search within Eventbrite. You have the opportunity after the event to communicate out to attendees that say, hey, cool, go you know, if you are not already part of the Gen community, go create a profile. You know, let's start, you know, get notifications, follow up with our news, you know, stay involved, you know, so you kind of have a dual capability. I love the Eventbrite idea and using that. That is a fantastic resource.
I'm going to go, we'll come back to you in a second, but we'll go over here first.
John, Mr. So I just want to find out, so if my profile is updated, I'm one of those with multiple profiles.
Uh-huh.
So I just want to find out. So the one that allows me to create, that's the one that supposedly allows me to make changes to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so excellent question. So I think the first thing that I would say to that with the multiple profiles is that the email address is the unique identifier. And so if you've created a profile using your Gen Global email address, right, versus maybe a Gmail address, then that's kind of where the multiple profiles come in. Now, in your particular instance, I would have to double check with Peter, but I'm fairly certain that the profile created with your Gen Global email address would be the one. Oh, thanks. Is that?
And I thought it was all along, until just now when I tried my Gmail. And the Gmail is the one that allows me to create and modify.
Okay.
Right. So what we can do is it's basically an easy switch for us. So it's just kind of tagging the back end. So that way giving you the proper permissions as a Gen managing director or a GW host organization. So that way that enables you to access the proper dashboards.
Yeah.
So follow-up question would be, so this as a tool for communicating to at least the registered network.
Yep.
Do they see all the updates if I post a report and when is it automatically sent to their emails or how
So
that network leverage on
right.
except for identifying who's who?
Right. So that's a great question. So right now we don't have the functionality that you're talking about, but just for everybody else, what he was asking is if there are updates that go to the site, does that go to the community? And so that's something that's not currently there, but something that we're working on in terms of making sure that, again, for those of you who are representing official or who are wearing official Gen hats, as you update the site, is how does that notify the community? And so whether that's notifications through the site itself, or some kind of email functionality. Now, obviously, we want to try and make sure that we measure that ability so that way we've got users on the site that aren't getting kind of blasted a lot. But
there's a bit of finesse that has to be done as we approach that problem with allowing users to customize their level of notification. And, you know, is it a weekly email or a daily email? Do they get notifications for literally everything or just new events and new news? You know, like what level of notifications do they get? And I think typically the best solution is allowing the user to customize their notification preferences. We are not there yet, but it's one of those things that is on the roadmap of updates we want to make the community more interactive and more enticing to our members to use and participate in. It's just not there yet.
That would be great
Mhm.
for GW hosts.
Yeah.
Especially because sometimes we lose contact with organizers from last year.
Yep.
And they are there.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, that's
And I
that's
think
really
social
important
media,
for us to-
you know, I know you guys all use social media, and social media is your biggest notification platform. So, you know, making sure that your users are engaged with your social media platform in the meantime solves some of that pain point. But yeah, it is, you know, it is something that we plan on mapping out and discussing of what is the experience when I'm logged in as a Gen member. You know, what kind of custom content do I have? What kind of communication capabilities do I have, you know, to contact other members through the platform, you know, as far as, you know, messaging and commenting and things like that. And so those are all things that we have to map out and figure out, but it is absolutely on the roadmap to solve on the website. So it is coming. I can't even begin to say when. We've still got to work on that, but it is absolutely, it's on my list, I promise.
Just to understand, you mentioned that you're gonna connect the webpage with the social media like Facebook, Instagram, and all that.
Yeah, and I think that there's also an opportunity for us with the Gen countries for you guys to APIs are a fantastic thing. And so what does that look like for the country directors, for your, do we allow you to like, set up your, like, connect your Facebook and your Twitter? And so whenever we post a new news article, it automatically pushes out to our social media feeds and we don't have to do it. So there's also opportunity there. That gets a little bit touchy with different countries. China doesn't allow Twitter, and so there's some level of security protocol involved in that one that we would have to finesse and figure out. But that's also something that I've thought about is, allowing that automatic push functionality to social media when you guys publish a news article, and adding also, yeah, exactly, that push pull, but also adding, a lot easier share this out. So if, you've got a member that sees something that's really, really great and they love it and they want to share it with their personal network, having that, share option on those news articles that's a lot easier to use and a lot more visible is also something that we know that needs to be improved and that's on the roadmap. So yeah, you're all hitting on things that I've already thought of, but I have literally been with Jen for 3 weeks. This is my 4th week in my role. So getting through this through GEC was our first hurdle. But Mark knows that I have big ideas, and I think he's a little nervous of my big ideas. He's going to be.
No, I love the big ideas. I'm nervous about the implementation steps it takes to get there, but no,
he's worried about how he's going to have to figure out how to pay for it, because you can't do it for free.
But I'm super excited about it. I think questions, John?
Yeah, just maybe what is referring to, just the balance between investing in trying to make this work and maybe I think on a roadmap towards something new.
Yes.
Where we are free to say,
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think the key point there is there are a number of capabilities and functionalities on the site that need some tweaks, some small tweaks in order to kind of make them a little bit more accessible and usable, that we're committed to doing as quickly as possible. Some of the minor things, maybe like Renee mentioned with kind of the images or whatever, or some of the pain points that we've been hearing, but also while simultaneously in parallel working on the next generation of the platform and what that looks like. I think the thing that I've been most nervous about is making sure that we don't lose the customized functionality that we have in our race to kind of embrace something new. And so it's just, and I think this is what Ashley is going to be really good at, is basically taking that user feedback, whether it's from our immediate family members, which many of you are, but then, or also that kind of that next ring around. And so whether it's the universities, the business schools, the chambers of commerce, the local community organizers that are doing things, learning from them, and like, well, how do you interact with the site, and what do you need to move forward?
Yeah.
So, but it's, rest assured, it's a conversation that we've
Yeah,
had
and
internally, and we're trying to map it out.
It's also like, and he's saying small wins. One of the things, the next thing that you'll see is an improvement and a refresh on the profile management and profile creation process. That's actually in the works right now. I think within the next few weeks to a month at the most, that will roll out. And so everybody will see an improvement in the experience of just managing their personal profile and how easy it is to update themselves, but also for members that are joining new, improving that process, because right now it's a little cumbersome, and so we're improving that flow and functionality and that look, and I know that is very far along right now. So there's things like that we're already working on improving, but in the big scale of things, we have a lot of ideas in some of the pain points that we have on the site. We know now that it becomes a matter of, is fixing it the correct solution, or is starting over and building it afresh to make it easier to use. Those are the conversations that Mark and I have to have as far as like what's the balance there.
Excuse me, have you considered allowing members to update We do a heck of a lot of stuff that would be relevant to put on there, but I didn't put it on there because I have to then go through our sort of gen country manager.
Yep.
And none of, they're all doing it as a, sort of
They're volunteers.
volunteers.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just too much.
So let me ask you a follow-up question here. So for anybody that might not have heard it, the question is, enabling website users to update the information directly without going through country managers. What kinds of information are you talking about? So like news articles, events,
Yeah.
all of the above?
That's the stuff. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay. So I think that's, I think that's something that, we're interested in. I think the part that we'll have to kind of figure out is the
approval process.
user-generated content and the approval process. And so
Yeah.
when we first designed the system, what we did was we kind of created a bottleneck and we made our country teams the curators. And so if there were new events that got added to the site by anybody, that went to the country, either the managing director or the GW host organization to approve, make sure it wasn't spam or make sure it wasn't something nefarious. Create a bottleneck, right? User-generated content, adding articles to the site, same thing. And so we've got to figure out what that solution is for that user-generated content, but that's when the site will really come alive. What we've got between the user profiles that Ashley mentioned that we're working on and we're really close to, and also the organization profiles. And so if you think there's a problem with duplication of user profiles, just
Oh my
wait until you
gosh.
see the organizations, right? So if you say Global Entrepreneurship Network or Gen Global or Gen, like those are three different organizations.
I don't know if you guys know
So-
Cecilia, but if you look at Cecilia's name tag, it just says Gen, Gen, whereas mine says Global Entrepreneurship Network, because even ourselves, our staff,
Right. It's
is
just human.
it's human error, but it's also a problem with our system where it's, there are definitely things that we can improve on that process. And I think updating the organization profiles is that experience is my next.
Yeah, and so what you'll see is like if you're familiar with like LinkedIn, right? So you go to LinkedIn, you go to an organization, and then you're going to see all the employees that have affiliated themselves with that organization. That functionality exists on the site currently, but we have that duplication issue, and so we're fixing that. But then also working on the process to kind of appoint a manager, and so that way, to get back to your original point, you'd have somebody that could control that organization profile, update it, whether it's a new web domain or boilerplate, and oversee who's kind of affiliated with it, but then also add that content, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you've released a new study or a report that you wanted to promote to the network, right? And you want to add that news to the site. That's the stuff, that's the richness of the stuff that we need to make sure that we give you the ability to do that directly. So.
It has to be in balance with, all things have to be in balance with maintaining the integrity of the brand. And so that's where you get into, and also, there's always the potential and, just hypothetically, that we could accidentally run up against the legal ramifications if somebody published a white paper or a report out to their community that they didn't have permission to publish or wasn't quite ready for publication yet or something like that, that we also have to balance of, do you have the permission to use this? Oddly enough, images are another area where we could run into, legal ramifications. If you don't have permission to use that image from the photographer, you don't have that, especially if it's a stock photo or something like that, a photo of a project, and like we've got our paid photography team here, if it was somebody's photograph that they took and you just found it on the internet and copied it, that's another issue. So we have to balance those legal ramifications and making sure we're not putting ourselves at risk with that user-generated content. We want it, but there's just a lot that goes into it that we have to thoughtfully process before we do that.
But I'm just thinking like with the reports, like say we've just published a report on founder wellbeing.
Yep.
Which is on our, linked on our website.
Yep.
So that actually would, like, if you were to provide evidence that it's already publicly available.
Yep.
I'm just thinking it just seems like we can have a ton of stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and there should be a simple
So
button that says submit news.
Yeah,
I
and
really like the idea of having, like, going to the New Zealand GEC team who then verify it. But
Yep.
Yep.
that's
And I think that's the ideal process, but obviously We have to make sure we're not overburdening our volunteers because everybody is, a volunteer. But yeah, I think too, the way I kind of picture it in my head is as we build out the community functionality and, some of those perks of being a member and logged in and what you get to see as a logged in community member is that community news, that community, community shared content. And so in that, then we can see that. And even if you didn't put the report itself, but you put a little blurb with a link to the report on your site, so that eliminates some of the legal ramifications. So we've got to, that's, again, one of those features that I have in mind, but
we're not, and we're actually not that far off on that. So the way, and we're getting close on time here,
Yeah.
so we got only a couple minutes. So I want to be respectful for the next session and allow you time to kind of get to wherever you're going next. But with that particular functionality, it's kind of the way that the news on the site works currently to an extent for national news versus global news. And so what we have is the ability for users, we curate the global feed, right, based on the news articles that are getting uploaded by the country teams. And so there's a way, though, where you can you'll first see that global feed by default. So that's our curated news, but then you could see an entire feed of everything that's coming through. We need to tweak it slightly so that way it's doing what you're suggesting, which is opening that up beyond our our country directors, and opening that to the community. So that way everybody can submit, we have a new report, we have a new event, events you can already do to an extent, but the new reports or other news press releases,
Absolutely.
other kinds of announcements, opening that up, and then basically giving people, okay, well, you're going to curate global news. Now you're going to curate national news. So that way our teams can do that. But then you have the entire, community feed as well.
Yeah.
So I think last question, I'm afraid.
Quickly, could we manage events this year in GW?
Can you manage events in GW this year?
as far as like the bulk upload and working on,
Because last year, we couldn't. I mean,
the reason why we've removed that is because it's a bottleneck for some, but not others. So not everybody's as willing as you to go in there and curate all those events, but also beyond that, we want this to be a platform that's open to everyone. And so there doesn't need to be somebody who's necessarily going through. Now, you do have the ability to, as a GW host organization, to identify what your highlight events are. And so you can go through and tag which ones that you want to push the most, but there's still going to be that entire feed of everybody who's uploaded an event on the platform from Ecuador is going to be available there. So
awesome.
thank you all. I
Thank
really
you, guys.
appreciate it. I know some of this is in deep, and I also want to say thank you for your interest, for your patience, but also please keep communicating with us because that's the only way that we can improve the platform and make it usable for you.
And the feedback has been invaluable. Really greatly appreciate that.
And so this is where I say, if anybody has any comments afterwards or questions, ashley@genglobal.org.
Thanks.
There's only a handful of people in here, so I don't feel bad about
I don't
saying
feel
it.
bad either.
But
It's
please,
fine.
yeah, please send us questions and information. We'd love to hear from you.
Yes, absolutely.
questions I have for the.
We've got nothing but time for you.
I will send you an email.
Thank you.
Maybe organize another online session for attendees
Yes.
and we
Yeah, no, I think that's.
I don't have any.
Thank you. And yeah, I have talked about doing online sessions after GEC for countries. Like if one country wants to do a Zoom call with 3 or 4 people, I have to figure it out yet. So it'll probably be about another month, October, before I'm opening that up. But yeah, because like I said, this is week 4 for me, so I need to get my feet under me just a little bit more.
actually it's actually your whole communication platform, Slack,
Yes, absolutely.
website,
Yeah, and if you guys
PwC.
send me Slack, send me email, absolutely. And then if you think of anything or you have another question, I am in the Gen Village in the the GEC booth beside the stage. That's where I'm spending most of my time outside of sessions. Yes. Thank you.